This is an assessment of data for the year of 2019-2020 Monticello Intermediate School. So first I'll talk about the different types of data that are important for a school to look at in order to get a full picture of everything that's going on. So first we have demographic data. This answers the question, who are we? This talks about population, ethnicity, diversity, English language learners, population of special education students, and so on. Next we have perception data. This is how does our school do business. When people look into our school or work with the school, what do they think of us? What do students think of the climate and culture? What do parents think of how we handle things with them? Next is student learning data, and this is the most often used form of data when thinking about a school because obviously it's, kind of what we're there for. This answers how are we doing, how are students doing, what can we look at in math and literacy and other subjects and see how they're growing and is what we are doing working. And last, school process data. This looks at all the processes that the school has, what they are, and how we handle them. By looking at this data, it helps us understand what are we missing. So first let's look at demographic data. Who are we? In Monticello Intermediate School, we serve grades 3 through 5. Our enrollment this year was 474. You can see the numbers for the different races. This has been pretty consistent over the past 3 years. Less than 2% English language learners. Half of our school are low income, 51%. So I think that's really important to think about when looking at other types of data, is taking that into account, as well as 10%, almost 11, are in special education. This is just a small graph of enrollment for the past 3 years, and it shows that it has declined a little bit. This was 2015, 2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, and it has declined, as has our entire district, so it's kind of looking at the larger picture. This is the last 3 years of ethnicity data, so you can just see that it's not any one race that declined necessarily over the past 3 years. It's pretty much stayed equal within 1 to 2%. It does look like a bit of a jump there, but it's not much at all. And this is our per pupil expenditures, and our average class size is 24. It's important to know when looking at student data, understanding what a teacher has in her classroom. And again, back to 10% of those will be in special education, 2% English language learners, and half of the class will be from a low-income family. So looking at these demographics, there are minimal changes in ethnicity, so there's not really a trend there. There was a downward trend in enrollment. Through ESSA scores, our school is considered very average in terms of everything for our state. Our report card grade was a C, up from a D. And again, half of our students are considered low income, which is a really big factor that we look into when looking at other student data. The perception data from our school, I don't have access to any of the answers to the surveys, but I do know we have parent surveys, and as a teacher I've completed surveys at school meetings, and parents are always able to call into the school with any compliments or complaints. There's a lot of communication there, and we usually know when something's up and try to fix the problem. So let's look at some student achievement data. This is literacy. The green is the 2016-17 year, and then this lighter orange pink color is last year. So today we will be focusing mostly on literacy. We will go a little bit over math, but you can see how high in that 2016-17 year we were and ready. We had 35% of our students and 20% exceeding, so that was 55%, over half of our students were exceeding. But you can see that not only have we fallen in ready and exceeding, we've also grown a lot in this very last column in need of support. So it's kind of concerning that some of these students are moving all the way down here, not just to close, but they're moving quite a bit down. So the students in ready have decreased by 12%, students in exceeding decreased by 4%. Close students have increased by 3% and in need by 15%. So this shows that something in our literacy program isn't working. Our students are struggling in literacy. So let's take a quick look at math. The chart looks quite a bit different. In elementary math, scores do tend to be better. You can see that in need of support has gone up a little by 6%. But there doesn't seem to be any trend anywhere in here. It's just we do have small classes with different students every year, so it's kind of just our students. We are working towards getting the succeeding back up to where it needs to be. The ACT Aspire data, which is what this comes from, has stayed pretty consistent. Close has remained within 4%. So the next data I want to talk about is our process data, because that is also, aside from literacy, what we will be talking about a lot today. So there are four main types of process data: instructional processes, organizational processes, administrative, and continuous school improvement processes. So we are looking at the continuous school improvement process because that is where we want to make our change. So if you look at these organizational processes, one of these is response to intervention. And while this is part of an organizational process, I also think that it goes under school improvement, and that's where we're going to put it today. You could also include it under instructional process because it is a type of instruction. So I'm going to go to a handout here. And this handout comes from the University of Texas Health Science, where they have studied implementing an intervention program through RTI using a 3-tiered system. And this is linked in the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to find it later, but let's find what I want to. It's really just the research behind why every school needs an RTI program, obviously intervention is just something that's part of school. Your students don't get it, you go back and reteach. But what do you do with all of those in need of support students when that gap continues to grow? You've got these students on grade level ready to move on, and then you've got these students 1, 2, 3 grade levels behind that aren't special ed. So we know that children don't outgrow their reading difficulties. They have to have quality intervention. That's what this says right here. Reading scores kind of level out with age. They're not going to continue to really grow once they get older. So if they're performing below grade level, they can't just improve in a regular classroom environment every day. Their peers are going to continue to grow, and they might continue to grow, but they're not going to close that gap without intervention. So if we diagnostic test and we make sure that we have all of our special education, we find all our students are dyslexic, but we still have these really poor students. We know how to break it down into the 5 strands of literacy and working on phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, and vocabulary. We can start to look at this 3-tier intervention. So our tier 1 is the core classroom, and so that's where we're going to see the issues that we're having, and we're going to notice that some of our students need a little extra work, and so we'll have those students down. We'll give them the supplemental intervention here, which is kind of the reteach, what we would call it, and then those 1 to 10% students, that are in need of support, really not getting it, that are grade levels behind, are going to get this intensive intervention. This helps with the effectively teaching all students, and we need to use data that we've seen to make these decisions. And we need to use a research-validated program. It needs to support reading instruction and reading comprehension. So I think I'll go back to let me go back to this. Make it big again. So next we're going to take a look at our school mission statement. It is the mission of the Monticello School District, and this is district-wide. Our MIS does not have its own mission. To create a safe and secure environment that fully supports all students as learners, all staff as professionals, and all parents, patrons, and community members as vital parts in establishing and promoting an education as a lifelong learning process. So breaking that down, let's look at how we are meeting our mission and how we are not. So some glows for that is we do actively work on parent involvement with our parent involvement improvement plan, and talking with them and getting them in the community involved. And our safety regulations talks about a safe and secure environment. I feel like our kids feel safe. There's some perception data, and we always meet regulations. So what I wanted to focus on is where it said working towards supporting every student. When we have a growing list of in need of support students, I don't feel like they're necessarily being supported in the right way. So I think before we completely change and overhaul our literacy program, we need to look at response to intervention and implement a new program there. I think that will see a change, and we can start to look at this data and see what it is that we're missing in classroom instruction, that we're hitting an RTI that maybe we can implement as a whole later on. So goals for improvement, we want to create a building-wide literacy RTI plan. Data documented needs to be able to move with each student through each grade level. So if they need to continue to be in the RTI program in Tier 3, from 3rd grade to 4th grade and 4th to 5th, we need to have a document that follows them that makes it easier for new teachers so they don't have to start over. This RTI time needs to be allotted in the literacy teacher's schedule. It doesn't need to be just squeeze it in here and there. We need to say, all right, this 20-minute block is for you to do RTI. And it would be helpful if this was all at the same time for our grade level, so that meetings could be during RTI meetings and data team meetings could be during that time as well. And we need to get our teachers trained, professional development on RTI, on the science behind reading. That continues to play into RISE, which is currently what Arkansas is looking at. So what is the role of our community and the patrons, including our school board? We need you to understand and research supporting RTI. This is science-based. It's been proven over and over again that this 3-tier system works, and it helps find students not only who may have a reading disability, but also students that just fell through the cracks and need that little extra support. We thought it would be a good idea to invite foster grandparents to meet with students to show their growth. From personal experience, I know that students talking about their growth and seeing where they're going is so important, and that it really helps them want to achieve, especially in reading. And so by getting to talk with a foster grandparent and show them what they've achieved through their individualized intervention plan would be great. And then, of course, attend meetings and be open to communication moving forward with RTI. So steps moving forward, this goes along with our goals and talks about meeting every single one. We need to choose an RTI program, pre-done program, and get teachers trained. The reason I've decided to go with pre-done is because this is new to us, and then maybe we can individualize it over time. There needs to be a lot of time in the schedules for the next 2020-2021 school year for RTI. There needs to be an